Hello friends and viewers, and welcome to my Safiyyah character guide. My name is James, I'm a global player and I started Sword of Convallaria in early September 2024. I'm a strategy and turn-based RPG fan, with the Fire Emblem series, Tactics Ogre, and Unicorn Overlord being some recent titles I enjoy. As such, I lack the technical knowledge and exposure to the Taiwan and China scene. I'm also a PvE-focused player, so I have no knowledge of PvP. As a result, I'm subject to feedback and open to being wrong. If you come across conflicting information to other guides and creators in this video, then that suggests that there are multiple ways to play a character. Play your way. As a fun fact about myself, I'm also an avid Thai tea boba enjoyer. Her trait is Thorny Rose. With this trait, Safiyyah sets enemies with the Hangman's Mark as priority targets. Her trait will be a major source of her turn and out of turn damage while also providing some sustain via lifesteal. Her initial skill is Hunting Impulse. With a 0 turn cooldown, prioritize landing kills with this skill to use it over consecutive turns. This is a great skill at low Voyager levels, but will be less and less part of Safiyyah's skill kit at level cap. At rank 1, I recommend Settlement of the Hanged Men. Settlement of the Hanged Men is a passive execute mechanic that allows Safiyyah to do follow-up damage if the target is dying. This can trigger from her trait, her Blade Chase reaction, and some select gear, enabling great synergy. Shadow Assault is a defensive option for dodge uptime, but plays less to Safiyyah's strengths. At rank 3, I recommend Shadowless Blade with a potential Castalia for tactic adjustment. Shadowless Blade allows Safiyyah to dodge and strike back with an AoE attack for 1 turn, inflicting a powerful vulnerable debuff to potentially several enemies and restore energy. Tactic Adjustment allows Safiyyah to change her class to turn a fight into her favor, while also reduce her damage taken and increase her movement. Note that Safiyyah can target another Seeker if you exclusively want the utility from the Disguise buff. At rank 5, I recommend Blade Chase. Blade Chase is a reaction skill that increases Safiyyah's out-of-turn damage output. Note that this is considered a ranged attack. If you desire more damage mitigation or need to avoid using ranged attacks, consider Vital Guard. At rank 7, I recommend Anti-Espionage Order and consider Castalia for HM Commander. Anti-Espionage Order allows Safiyyah to apply an additional Hangman's Mark on the battlefield and immediately inflict defense debuffs. The summoned HM agent can cast Escape, a long-range swap with a unit, allowing a unit to move closer or away from the battlefield. Finally, once the HM agent dies or expires, it will deal AoE damage and inflict 2 level 2 attribute debuffs to all targets hit. Consider Castalia for HM Commander to increase group utility, even more so if you have rostered more units to apply Hangman's Mark. For her basic attack upgrade, your options are Ceiling Attack or Team Attack. Note that Team Attack does 20% less damage than Ceiling Attack in her initial basic attack. Consider this option for the speed and attack buff on an ally. If you want to maintain Safiyyah's basic attack strength and add debuff utility, consider Ceiling Attack. My pick here is Team Attack. At rank 11, your options are Army Bane Blade or Weapon Eroder. Consider Army Bane Blade for a strong, single target hit with the potential to critical strike. Consider Weapon Eroder for piercing damage and attack debuff. Neither of these skills will likely be a regular part of Safiyyah's skill kit. My pick here was Weapon Eroder. Next, I want to go over some synergy Safiyyah has with her skills and select gear. Recall the following. Thorny Rose her trait. Safiyyah deals additional physical damage after attacking an enemy with the Hangman's Mark. Settlement of the Hanged Men, a passive skill. After Safiyyah attacks, she will deal additional piercing damage if the target is dying and has the Hangman's Mark, and the mark is removed afterward. Blade Chase, a reaction skill. Safiyyah performs an assisting attack when an ally attacks an enemy with the Hangman's Mark. Consider this scenario. An ally attacks an enemy with a Hangman's Mark within a 3-tile range of Safiyyah. Safiyyah will trigger her reaction skill, Blade Chase, performing an assisting attack. Safiyyah will then follow up with an attack from her Thorny Rose trait. If the target is dying after these attacks, she will then follow up with her Settlement of the Hanged Men passive. She also has interactions with the Flying Blade Arm Guard or Roaring Flint Trinkets. In a scenario where she attacks a target with either of these trinkets, she will follow up with an attack from her Thorny Rose trait. With Roaring Flint, if Safiyyah hits multiple enemies with the Hangman's Mark, she will attack each marked enemy with Thorny Rose. If the target is dying after these attacks, she will follow up with her Settlement of the Hangman passive. Another interaction is through Course of Fortune. Suppose Course of Fortune triggers its AoE attack at the end of Safiyyah's turn. Safiyyah will follow up with an attack from her Thorny Rose trait on each target with the Hangman's Mark, and again, if the targets are dying after this attack, she will follow up with her Settlement of the Hangman passive. Based on the synergy of her trait with passive skills and gear, this is my recommended build. This build provides a lot of passive and follow-up damage through Blade Chase and Settlement of the Hangman, as well as debuff and utility support with Shadowless Blade and Anti-Espionage Order. Consider swapping Shadowless Blade for HM Commander to play a more supportive Hangman's Mark build. Consider playing this build if you want to play Safiyyah to be single target damage focused. Use Army Bane Blade against bosses, or use Hunting Impulse if you can capitalize on the energy resets. Tactic Adjustment provides her flexibility against a priority target. You can also consider Weapon Eroder. For weapons, some options include Everburning Blade, Newborn Blade, and Void Stab. All of these are great options, so consider whichever you have the most stars and the best engravings for. Everburning Blade is good for single target damage, though her assisting attacks may not always capitalize on the increased damage to enemies with Scorch. Newborn Blade is a great general use weapon. Void Stab is an option to increase her crit, however, note that piercing damage cannot critical strike. For trinkets, I recommend Flying Blade Arm Guard or Roaring Flint as additional ways to trigger her follow-up attacks as previously mentioned. Fancy Hat is a good general use trinket to protect her skills, especially when portions of her damage come from her reaction and passive skills. Evergreen Pendant is another option to consider, which will trigger from her traits Lifesteal. Other options not pictured here, physical attack increasing trinkets such as Origin Hourglass and True Lens are considerable options. Crystal Burst Armor will also increase her strike back damage from Shadowless Blade. For Taros, I recommend Course of Fortune to not only provide additional damage through her trait and passive skills, but also for general damage buffs and sustain. Consider Destruction of the Tower, which increases her out of turn damage. Consider rolling a physical attack increase instead of the exclusive effect. Source of Strength Tarot is good for when she is using Tactic Adjustment. And Temptation of the Devil is great on high target count maps. For engravings, I recommend the Sword and Wand Resonance. With her base 5 move, she should have no problems utilizing this resonance at all. However, Double Wand can also be considered, as Safiyyah can trigger it frequently per round when she is able to perform assisting attacks and strikebacks. To provide some composition and usage tips, with Safiyyah's strength revolving around Hangman's marks, consider rostering a few units that can also apply the mark. With Shadowless Blade, the lifesteal from her trait, and Course of Fortune, she can be a survivable unit. Practice and develop comfort with having Safiyyah solo parts of a map by herself. From Anti-Espionage Order, utilize the HM Agent's Escape as a strategic target swap to better position an ally in the battlefield for units highland advantage or away from danger. Safiyyah is also part of the Iria and Discipline categories. Consider building a team with Safiyyah around one of these leaders' auras. For external category buffs in Iria, we have Dentalion's Leader Aura, who offers the unique effect of more damage to enemies with 3 or more debuffs. Safiyyah provides debuffs through Shadowless Blade and Anti-Espionage Order. Xavier and KA Fire Conjurer provide the Battle Flag of Iria. I recommend Dentalion's Aura instead if possible, and only consider the Battle Flag if it's your only option. Inanna provides Soulmate, which is a great ability to have in an Irian team, providing up to 20% attack and defense. Safiyyah's HM Agent can also benefit and contribute to the target count, although the agent is ordinarily short-lived. In the Discipline category, we have Akambe and Leonide. With Akambe, Safiyyah does not have any skills with a base cooldown of 4 turns, but her HM Agent from Anti-Espionage will benefit from the increased damage. As for Leonide, once again because Safiyyah doesn't have any skills with a base cooldown of 4 turns, Leonide's aura is equivalent to a basic leader's aura providing attack and defense only. This is a quick look at my Safiyyah. I have the Ever-Burning Blade and Flying Blade Arm Guard with Sword and Wand engravings. Unfortunately, these are both still only 1 star. I also use a Course of Fortune Tarot as well. For skills, I use Team Attack, Blade Chase, Shadowless Blade, Anti-Espionage Order, and Settlement of the Hangmen. That concludes my character guide. As mentioned in my disclaimer, I welcome feedback and I'm open to being wrong. I'm still learning and improving at this video game just like you. Additionally, if you find conflicting information to other guides or content creators, then that means there are multiple ways to build a character and still be successful. I highly recommend that you play your way. Here is my contact information, my YouTube, Discord, and email. And as always, please feel free to comment below with any feedback you have about this guide. Last but not least, I want to credit and share these resources that contributed to helping me build this guide. Thanks for watching.